Hey guys, Michael here from Dapper Raptor, and in this tutorial I'm going to go over the process of getting QuestMap Pro up and running with Lyra or Lyra. Lyra is the game mode framework that Epic provided with Unreal Engine 5. It's particularly well suited to shooters, but there is some other examples, and there's quite a lot of things you can do with it. Now, before I proceed, I have spent almost no time in Lyra. I've had a quick look at it and been like, oh, that looks cool. I'll get to that at some point. But a community member, Capt.Meat.Shield, has actually gone through the process of setting it up with QuestMap Pro and working out all the specifics that need to be done. And I am piggybacking off of a write-up they did in the Discord to do this tutorial. There are a couple of small changes I have made. But other than that, it seems like a pretty good process to go through, and I can't say for sure it's the best process, like it's the best method of integrating the two, but this is how I would do it as well. So I just want to get that out of the way. Now, this is a standard Lyra setup with quest map just added, and I've made a level for the process. I'm just going to demonstrate that it is the standard one. So this is the level that you get when it comes from the marketplace. I haven't even loaded up the control map. As you can see, it's taking a bit longer. Once you've loaded this, it will load instantly. But yeah, I just want to demonstrate that it is the standard setup. It's even having to do all the shader preparation and that because I haven't. So that's what you expect, and as you can see, there's no quest map set up in this. So let's quit out of that. So what I have done is I've just created a really basic level here with a cube and a sphere just for reference on the map. I've gone ahead and done the standard setup for the map capture with the target points and captured the map image itself, which I can show you just in here. And this was just in the interest of making the tutorial a bit shorter. So it's just the map we're going to be using, the actual image. Other than that, nothing else has been done. I've added 4 player starts, and I've set the map up to use the elimination game mode from Lyra and the elimination game experience and the standard Lyra game mode that is this one here. So that's the point we're jumping off from. So we've just got our couple of bots here, and there's our enemy bots. We can shoot them and do damage as normal. There's no nav mesh in this level, so they're not going to know where to go or anything like that, but that is enough for us to get started. I've specifically chosen the elimination mode, or one of the team modes, so that I can set up the teams on the mini-map and world map as well. So we'll go through that at the end. Okay, so to begin the process, the first thing we need to do is create a controller. Lyra itself, being based on a C++ framework, doesn't have a controller blueprint. It has a controller C++ file. But I'm going to assume that people that are using a blueprint-based map system probably want to work with blueprints, so we're going to go through that. Obviously, if you are familiar and adept with C++, you can adapt this process to integrate it into a C++ one. So what we want to do is we're going to right-click and go create new blueprint class, and we want to expand this all classes and just search for Lyra player controller. So this is the player controller class that is a C++ class. And we're going to select that, and we're going to make a blueprint based off of that. We're going to call it BPLPC, so just Lyra Player Controller. And we're going to open that one up. Now we want to click on class settings here, go to implemented interfaces, and just search for controller under the add. So bpint underscore questmap pro underscore controller is the one we're looking for. So if you've done the QuestMap Pro integration in a normal project, you would be familiar with this process, but we're just going to go through it with Lyra and address any differences along the way. So if we expand interfaces and QuestMap Pro, if you do not see this, hit compile. We are looking for Get QuestMap Pro Manager. We want to open that one up, and then up here we want to click on Add, type in QuestMap Pro. I'm going to copy and paste that for time. We want to add the Manager. We want to add the Map component. And we want to add the compass component. Now, if you are not planning on using the compass or the map, say you only want one of these, I would recommend going through the entire integration process as is, and then either disabling them. So for instance, the compass, you can just disable the compass, because this will ensure that you have not missed any steps that are important along the way. If that works, then you can delete the compass and work with that. But I would recommend doing the full integration and then stripping it back. In this get quest map manager, we want to give it a reference to the manager we've just added. We're going to hit compile and save, and for the moment we are done in the controller, but we're going to jump into B_Lyra game mode, and we're just going to tell it to use that controller. So where it says player controller class, we just want to drop down here and select the controller we made, BPLPC. Compile and save. We don't need the game mode open anymore. Now the next step, we need to set up quest map in our character. Now because we are using the elimination experience, we are going to use the shooter core pawn. If you are using just the Lyra base one and you're not using the shooter core, you should be able to work with this one, character default, but because we are using the shooter core, we're going to go one step further along just to avoid extra steps in the tutorial. So if we go into plugins and shooter core content and we search for hero, this is the one we're looking here, B_hero_shooter mannequin. Despite being called mannequin, it is a blueprint and it is a pawn. So you can see this is based on B_hero default, which itself I believe is based on character default, which is the one I pointed out before. In here, we want to start by going to class settings, and we want to do a similar process here. Under interfaces, click add, and we want to search this time for player actor. bpint_questmappro_player actor is the one we're looking for, so click on that. Make sure you hit compile, and then once again, expand interfaces, expand quest map pro, and the one we're looking for here is get camera. We want to just get a reference to our player camera and feed that into there. We can hit compile and save on that. Now let me check and make sure I haven't missed anything in my setup here. Nope, we're looking good. Okay, so while we're in the player, while we're in the pawn, we're going to piggyback off a couple of events here, and this is why we're using the shooter core one, just because we need this logic to fire off, and it's a bit simpler this way. So we want to start with event possessed, and we just want to move this over a little bit to give ourselves a little bit of room. We want to drag off this new controller here, and we just want to promote this to a variable. So I'm just going to call this controller ref, and I'll just neaten this up and hook those noodles. Now, at the end here, after add initial inventory, we want to use that controller ref we just created. And we want to drag off here and use get quest map pro manager. And you want to make sure this is the message version. And we're going to hook that up here. Now, because we are implementing this on the pawn level, the same pawn that the bots use, we want to make sure that we filter out so the bots aren't running any QuestMap Pro logic, because they won't actually have the components added to their controller because they use a different controller. So off this manager, we're just going to use an isValid. And if you don't use this, things will still work, but you're going to get some access to none errors. Essentially what we're doing here is we're just using this to filter out the bots. And as long as it is valid, we want to go to initialize manually. If it's not valid, we don't do anything. That is it for the initialize. Then what we want to do is find these ones here, OnDeathFinished and OnReset. This is the logic that is called when your player dies. So in here, what we want to do is we want to tell QuestMap Pro to stop running. So we're going to drag off a controller reference. We're going to use that same interface message, get quest map pro manager. And we're going to do the exact same thing because we don't want bots to be running any of this logic. So off of manager here, we're going to do is valid. And then as long as it is valid, we're going to call reset state. And that is it in the pawn, I believe now. So we can actually compile, save, and close this guy. Now, in our controller, we still have a couple more steps to do here. We need to implement the input mappings. Now, the correct way to do this is obviously to use the enhanced input. For the interest of time in this tutorial, I'm just going to copy-paste the hard-coded inputs from the demo blueprint. I would recommend going through the process correctly, but yeah, I'm trying to keep this tutorial quick here. So we're going to copy the zoom logic, the toggle compass, the toggle world map, the toggle minimap, and the minimap zoom cycling, player ping, and center on player, map on player. We're going to copy that. We're going to paste that into here. Now there's a few bits in here we don't need. We do not care about the 3D widget for this tutorial. So we're just going to do that. We're going to replace all these references in a second as well. So we're going to go through and we're going to replace any references to the world map with the map component. Just like that. Any references to the manager with the manager component. This one here, do we have a reference to the player at all? We don't, so we can just use get controlled pawn for this one. Continue replacing these. Compass. Oops, that was the wrong one. And then map up here. And as long as we've done them all good, yep, we can hit compile and save that. So again, I would recommend going through the correct process here, but this is just going to be a lot quicker than creating all the interface events. Now we want to click on manager and we want to change a couple of settings here. So it's very important that we disable activate on begin play. Now the reason for this is the way that Lyra and a lot of these possession based gameplay modes work. Your controller will initialize and then your character will only actually initialize once the player has clicked start or ready or whatever. So we don't want to initialize QuestMap Pro until that happens, which is why we set up the possessed event. So we want to make sure that's disabled. As Lyra is designed on sessions where you respawn, you also want to disable destroy helper actors. We're going to just use the example UI, but there is obviously tutorials on the documentation on how to implement QuestMap Pro into your own UI. So once you have it up and running and you know it works, you can do that. And then also we want to jump into our map component and just set this up with the correct map. So I've called that integration map image. And we're going to hit compile and save. And I think that should actually be everything now. Let's hit that and let's go start. We can see we've got our compass at the top. We've got our mini map showing a player here. Now that player is showing up as an enemy player. If we hit map, we'll see that we've got the fog of war working as expected. You can zoom. We can change the zoom on the mini map. All those things are working as we expected. So that is the bare bones of the integration done. Again, the compass is over the scoreboard, but you would change that all once you integrate it into your own UI. The extra step I just wanted to do is to jump into one of the components with QuestMap Pro. So if you go into Content, QuestMap, Blueprints, Components, and just open the manager. There's a couple of things in here that we want to do. We want to first of all do a small fix that will not be necessary once the next version is available. And all this fix is if we need to open the map component for this one. We just want to find add teammate. So add teammate, and we just want to go down into here and change the world map reference here to the mini map one. And then in update teammates. We just want to go down to this one here and change this reference from world map to minimap. So that is a fix. Essentially at the moment in 1.4 and earlier, the teammates don't show up on the minimap only. That just fixes that. We can close that. Now, to do teammates normally in QuestMap Pro, the way you would do it is in your controller, there is this function here, get teammates, and you would just use a make array or something similar, and you can add references to your teammates. Now, not being familiar with Lyra, I'm not confident that system is going to work, but there's actually a really simple fix we can do here. So in the QuestMap Pro Manager component, we just want to, let me open up my, sorry, I just want to make sure I get this correct. We just want to go into process player. So under utility, miscellaneous public, open up process player. And this check right here essentially is used to determine if the player is a teammate or not. So we could actually do it in here even, but we're going to just plug it in here for simplicity. We've got player in and our player. So our player here is actually the player that's being used, and we're going to use a Lyra function called find teammate or find team from object. And we're going to also use the player in, and we're going to use the exact same logic for that one. And what this will do is it will essentially give us a team ID for each player, and we can compare those two. So if we hook this up to the false here, and then we just take the team ID from this one, use an equals node, that will tell us if they are on the same team. Then when we hook this up to branch, we can hook this one here. So this one here can go away. This is the idea that we're going for here, is that we're checking the player that is being controlled against the player that is being overlapped, and if they are the same, then they are a teammate. So if we now hit compile and save that, minimize that, and hit play, we should see on the minimap our teammate is now green. And if we go over to these guys over here, they will be red. And that's exactly what we want. Additionally, we can check and make sure that they disappear when they die, and that they will reappear when they respawn, like that. They're also going to show up on the map. All those settings are obviously up to you to do. You can add waypoints, all that sort of stuff. All the normal functionality of QuestMap Pro is now available to you, and we don't get any errors. So that is the full setup for QuestMap Pro with Lyra. As I said, there is going to be steps that you're going to need to change in your own based on how you're using Lyra, but hopefully that'll be enough to get you up and running. If you do have any questions, normal channels apply. There is the documentation where I will be writing this up as a written tutorial with any changes that happen over time. You can leave a comment under this video, jump in the Discord, or reach out via email. Thank you very much for watching, and good luck with your development.